Hello, and welcome to the SharePoint Framework and JavaScript Biweekly Sync. It is November 4th, 2021. I'm your host on this call, Patrick Rodgers, and we have, of course, a great agenda for you as always. Latest updates around SharePoint Framework. We'll run through some updates on the Patterns and Practices program, new community samples, our optional picture time with Together mode, and then 3 great demos from Anoop, Allison, and Hugo. So a Microsoft 365 Tenant Service Health Viva Connections Adaptive Card extension, a React News web part, and an SPFx Design Pattern custom properties. Excited to see all of those here shortly. Of course, if you're interested in participating a little bit more in PnP or this call or the program in general, the first thing I always encourage folks to come demo your work on these calls. So there's a link down there in the bottom right corner, ak.ms/m365pnp/request/demo, and check that out. It's a great way to get some visibility for your company, your work, and yourself, of course, as well. The demos are really fantastic on all of the calls, and love the demos. I always learn something new. It's great to see what all of you are doing out there in the community. So please reach out on those demos. Contribute on GitHub as well, of course. Always welcome your issue reports. As I always say, we don't love getting issues, but we love finding out about them so we can get them fixed. Submit pull requests. All of our projects and the projects in all of our partner repositories or partner organizations welcome pull requests as well and your contributions. And as well, if you have a little bit of time and happen to know the answer, you can always help out with issues and questions others might have if you happen to know the answer. And as always, we welcome your feedback on everything we're doing in Patterns and Practices. How are the calls? How's the documentation? Where else can we help? And of course, positive feedback is okay too. If there's something we're doing and you really like it, let us know. We can do maybe a little bit more of it. Now, lots and lots of links. The first link there is for our developer videos. Those are going to be content-focused videos on doing things like auth or writing a web part or an ACE extension. Then we have community videos, which are going to be the recordings of all of our calls. So this call, the call on the opposite Thursdays, and then the other weekly calls, the Tuesday call, and everything else will be there. So you can always catch up if you happen to miss one of the calls. You can always catch up later, or you just want to review something we might have covered. Those will all be available there on the YouTube channel, typically about 24 hours after the actual call happens. We have a bunch of open source organizations there, SharePoint, PnP, Office Dev, and Microsoft Graph. All welcome your input, your issues, your contributions. So check all of those out. If you have interest, in Microsoft Graph in particular, they're doing some really cool stuff with their SDKs across a lot of different languages. Certainly check that out. They're looking for folks to join in and help out as well. ak.ms/team samples, SPFx web parts, Power Platform samples, SPFx extensions, and list formatting samples are all great places to start when you're trying to start a new project or you have some work to do. It's always a good place to see how others are solving these problems and get ideas to build your own solutions. So check those out. And as well, of course, we welcome all of your samples. If you are interested in submitting there, Hugo goes over those every couple of weeks to update folks on what's in there. We'd love to highlight your sample. So please do, if you're interested, submit your sample there to the appropriate gallery. And those are a lot of links, so you can always just remember ak.ms/m365pnp. That'll get you all the information about the Patterns and Practices program, links to all of our calls, and as well links to all of these other resources. So be sure to check that out. Do want to mention as well, we've got the call coming up next Tuesday. This is the Microsoft 365 platform call, 9th of November. Can't believe we're already in November. 8 a.m. Pacific time, which is 8 a.m. Pacific time, so you can work out how that is for your time zone. But Shubham Gatkal introducing embedded search box, and Waldeck and Vesa extending Microsoft Viva connections with adaptive card extensions. I think that might be a little bit of a rehash of some of what they did at Ignite with some new content there on the adaptive card extensions to highlight that. As well, we'll cover latest news and community photo opportunities there as well. The recurrent invite available, ak.ms/m365-dev-call. Everybody is welcome, of course, to attend that. And that's not as SharePoint framework focused. That's just the whole Microsoft 365 platform. So a great call to attend to keep up to date with what's going on. And then as well, this is David's slide for sharing is caring.
Thank you, Patrick. Well, friends, you're going to see a whole host of opportunities to get involved in the community throughout today's call and these introductory slides, whether that means you're going to use the resources or contribute back, and we welcome you to do both. But we understand that that hurdle may be preventing you from getting involved because there might be things like, how do I interface with GitHub? I'd love to present, but I'm a little nervous. I'm a first-time presenter. I'd like to start setting up and using the samples, all of which we're loving to help you do hands-on. Sharing is Caring is here as a program to provide you that hands-on guidance in a safe space, free opportunity to collaborate with members of the PnP team and others in the community. As you can see, there is a wide spectrum of sessions and the ever popular AMAs that are coming up. In fact, CLI for Microsoft 365 next week and PnPjs the week after. So please don't hesitate to register. We want to help you get more involved, aka.ms/sharing is caring. Once you do that, we want to celebrate you. So if we move to the next slide, we have the PnP recognition program. Now, this is a fairly newish. It's been getting a lot of great press and everyone's been getting excited. It is powered by Credly and it is here to celebrate all the amazing work that you do in the community in a formal and official way. So it's the same Credly that you get the badges from when you do Microsoft certifications. They're going to sit right alongside of it. We've got a whole host of new ones. We had just debuted the Hacktoberfest, so those are going to start going out now that October is ended. We start tallying up all of those contributions, and we are working on theme-specific ones. So we've got the independent publisher connectors, we've got blogs, SPFx, we've got CLI, all kinds of specific badges coming soon to celebrate all the amazing work you're doing. We do need you to opt in so that we can connect your email address to your Credly profile to your GitHub account. So aka.ms/m365 PnP recognition. We want to celebrate you. Opt in. It's awesome and exciting. Patrick, back to you.
Thanks, David, for those updates. And I do want to thank, we've had to move the time of the PnPjs Ask Me Anything due to I had some personal appointments that came up. So thanks everybody for the flexibility. Hope to see you there, but that time has moved. Just want to highlight that a little bit. And now we'll do SharePoint framework updates with Vesa.
Thank you. Thank you. Just a reminder, and like a few hours after our previous SharePoint Framework and Viva Connection call, we actually released the SharePoint Framework 1.13, which is really targeting the Viva Connection and extensibility options there. Of course, Viva Connection is also about SharePoint portals, so basically creating web parts and extensions. But it's not only that, but it's also including the mobile ACE option. So that's all now generally available as part of the SharePoint Framework 1.13. Just to call out, Viva Connection has a new logo, which was announced in the Ignite this week. So you can see that connection style thing on the lower corner. That's Viva Connection. So now also something what we did pretty recently is that we released a new document related on Viva Connection design guidance. So we're looking into evolving this documentation as well. But if you go AKMS ACE design, you will find actually design guidance for those adaptive card components and how to get started and the considerations over there. We're looking into actually doing cool ACE samples more and more together with our design team as well. This is something which we used to have on these calls quite often. I haven't actually shown this for a while, so I wanted to actually just pinpoint this one. We can't talk about exact numbers, but I can say that there are currently tens of millions of monthly active users for custom SharePoint Framework components across to Microsoft 365. So technically in Microsoft Teams, in Viva Connection, and in SharePoint Online, because those are the platforms where SPFx is being used. And you can nicely see the growth from January 2019 to July 2020. Sorry, July 2021. Yes, July, and it's January 2021 is the last date. It's pretty amazing to see the growth, but I guess it's one of the thinking points is also the consistency that we keep on releasing new versions gradually, and it's G8 and it's proven and it's pretty well, it's reliable as well, and we keep on addressing any issues if there's any. This is more on what's going to happen now after 1.13. So nothing new here. Based on the changes since last time we talked, but basically performance improvements in the pipeline, team storage support for partner SharePoint Framework solutions in Works, and new app and catalog experience, and a lot of improvements on the store side. New Yeoman templates are going to go to in 1.14. We previewed them already at some point. Better solution metadata support, enable service principal extensions, and a lot of more stuff in here. So 1.14 beta is coming quite soon, so within a week or two, and that's scheduled right now to go out right after the new year, so in January, sooner or later. But that's it from my side. Let's move forward.
Thank you, Vesa, for those great updates. And now we will go to Julie for PnPjs updates.
Cool. Thank you, Patrick. So my update today is around version 3. Patrick and I have been working very, very hard on getting all the unit tests completely functioning properly, and we're at around 90% positive tests. So all the about 90% of the tests are passing. We still have some work to do on client-side pages, as well as there have been some breaking changes again in the taxonomy preview API, and we did see some minor changes in the graph teams endpoint that we need to still work out. But otherwise, you will find that the nightly build of our v3 package has some pretty, solid code in it. So we would really, really appreciate it if people could go to that issue 1636. It has a little getting started on how to use that v3 nightly build and test it out and see how it works for you. And if you have any issues or feedback, we would love to hear about those. Obviously, knowing that we do have some failing tests yet, so there are some pieces there that won't work. But otherwise, for the most part, we're finding that everything is working, and we're really, really excited about this update. So we would love to have you test it out, give us some feedback, and as usual, please put all that feedback in the issues list, and please follow us M365 PnPjs on Twitter for any updates. Back to you, Patrick.
Thanks, Julie, for that. We are very excited to get v3 out. Clicking through all the animations there on the slide. Next up is CLI for Microsoft 365. So new preview version 4.2 with adding service principals to Azure AD apps, getting list item attachments, extending uploading files to support SharePoint resource-specific consent, and new sample showing how to use the CLI's access token for other things. You can always get the 4.2 beta channel there with @next. And you can as well get the Docker container using the :next syntax there for Docker. Release notes are there at the URL with pound v420 at the end. So you could always check out what's going on with the CLI, a great tool to have in your tool belt for setting up your environments, managing your environments, and helping to control your dev environment as well as your production environment. So certainly check that out. SPFx reusable components. So React Controls 3.4.0 package is out. This is the React controls are for the body of your web parts or application customizers. You can drop those in and get a great out-of-the-box look. Modern Taxonomy Picker is using the new Taxonomy REST API, documentation enhancements, decreasing bundle size for pagination control, and various fixes. Version 3.5 is coming out soon with support for SPFx version 1.13. So look for that in the coming days and weeks. And then the React property controls, these are designed to be used in the property pane of your SPFx web parts, are at version 3.2. Fast serve support, various fixes in that version. 3.3 with support for SPFx 1.13 is coming soon. Thank you, as always, to all the contributors to these controls. As with all of our projects, it's been really amazing to see the folks jump in and contribute and grow these projects. And so thank you to everybody who has helped out there. And last but not least is PnP Modern Search.
So that means we released October release, which is 4.4.1. So we had the 4.4.0 out, and then there was a few minor bugs. Check out the release notes. Yeah, I need to update the tag on the URL there to 4.4.1 as well. But it's 4.4 is out, and the new one version 3 is out. Test it, give feedback.
Great stuff. Thanks for the update. And now we've got SPFx samples with Hugo.
Boy, do we have samples for you. We've got 2 repositories from the SPFx side. Well, we have more than 2, but 2 that I want to talk to you about today, which are SPFx extension samples and SPFx web parts. These are samples that are created by the community, and they're there to help you learn simple patterns. And some of them are really like full-featured solutions that you're welcome to look at, rip apart, try to figure out how you can use it in your own environment. Let's just remember that those are not intended to be supported solutions. They're absolutely intended for you to learn from them. But here's what we have over the last 2 weeks. We've got a new extension by Sudarshan, which allows you to actually go change the page layout type for your site pages. So you can switch, let's say, from an article to a home and vice versa. Very cool extension. And then on the web art side, we have some updates. One by Joao Mendes, the list item menu, where we've just added support for managed metadata columns. Alex Trantiev has upgraded the Kanban board web part to SPFx 113. The new React calendar, or not new, the updated React calendar by Mohamed Amer, who fixed an issue with recurring event. Not to be confused with the modern calendar, which was updated by Peter Kirchner with update for time zones, which is probably a timely fix. And we have a new web part by Adam Wojcik, which is Find Parker. So if you've ever played Where's Waldo, imagine having a web part like that in your page just for fun. It was just released for Halloween, but I'm sure it could be repurposed for Christmas, Easter, and all these other fun things. So one of the things that we've done with the samples is we've updated the compatibility tags. Every sample, or very soon every sample, will have one of these tags. We'll tell you exactly where this is going to work or not going to work, because what we found, the majority of issues that people are filing were usually related to, I have the wrong version of Node, or this is not ever going to work on a local workbench, but they're trying to make it work on local workbench. The other thing that we're trying to do is we've added, for the majority of samples, we've started adding a section where we're just showing you basically how to quickly create an issue, quickly search for existing issues and discussions around a given sample. That way you can actually, before you open a ticket, you can actually go see if other people have had this conversation. And of course, we created a link to our awesome SPFx doctor as part of the Microsoft 365 CLI, so you can diagnose issues with node compatibility, environment compatibility. That's it for me. I think next is my friend David to talk to you about our Viva connections.
Thanks, Hugo. Yep, one of the newest repositories for the SPFx samples is the ACEs, Adaptive Card Extensions, allowing you to extend Viva connections. Exciting stuff. We have a new sample from Luis Manez, today's lunch information. It's a really cool way to identify for those corporate office locations that have cafeterias and the opportunity to change that menu every day. So definitely go check that out. And we have some updates from Anoop on Service Health and Transport for London status. Service Health you're going to see today. So that's an exciting, very, very cool adaptive card extension. We are open for more extensions and contributions in this repository. Reach out if you have any questions. Hugo, myself, and Derek Cash Peterson are the three amigos that are helping manage this. So don't hesitate to reach out to any one of us. And we're working with Louisa and Hugo and Derek on getting started with Viva Connection ACEs in a new Sharing is Caring session. So we're trying to get all that information together. That's going to be exciting. Look for that over the next while and get more involved. So definitely thank you everyone for your contributions. Keep up the amazing work. Patrick, back to you.
Thanks, guys, and thanks to everybody for submitting all these samples and updating these samples. It's really an incredible resource for the community. And if you're interested, please do, as we mentioned before, submit your samples. And with that, we are on to optional picture time. So if you all would like to turn your cameras on and get onto the picture
show. Yay. Let's wait a few more seconds. We're going to be pretty fast today. We are a bit behind on the schedule, but we'll get to the 50. And
I'll turn my camera on. Let's see if I make it. I made it. Did I? No. Yes. No. Yes.
There you are. Should I do it?
Yes.
I can try it as well. No. Yes.
Yes.
Did I make it?
No.
Make it? Yes.
I don't see me. Oh, I see me. There I am. Okay.
Okay. Cool.
Thought I didn't exist there for a second.
Patrick, you exist for all of us. So let's actually do some hand waving, everybody. So thank you, everybody, for joining again today. Great to have you in the call. Hopefully, we'll see you in Las Vegas or in Düsseldorf later this month or early next month. Thanks, everybody. Absolutely brilliant. And let's stay in touch in the community channels. Brilliant. Excellent. Thank you. Let's go back on the demos.
We're now going to go to the demo. So we're going to start off with Anoop. Anoop, if you want to go ahead and take over the sharing.
Right. Thank you, Patrick. So first of all, happy Diwali, everyone. Today is the Festival of Lights. So yeah, wishing everyone a happy Diwali. Today's demo is on an adaptive card extension, which is called as the Tenant Service Health. A quick introduction about myself. My name is Anup Tatti. I became a MVP just recently, and I'm a developer Content and Cloud here in UK. I write blogs on a platform called Medium under the account Anup T. My Twitter username is Anup Tells, and GitHub username is Anup T. So you can follow me on those platforms if needed. Right, let's start with the demo first and then look at the code. So if I go to my dev tenant, refresh this page. So over here, we've got an adaptive card extension in the mobile view called as Service Health. What this does is it shows the issues that are present in our tenant currently. As you can see, the first thing it shows is there are currently 5 issues and 3 services have been affected. And then when I click on view details, it shows us each of the services that have been affected. And then if you click on one of the services, it shows you what those issues are. And then when you click on more details, it takes you to the Service Health page and loads the issue itself. So you can take a look as to what the issue is. Right, so this one, if I just come out of preview, and then, yeah, I'm in the edit mode. So the thing is, because audience targeting is enabled on the ACES, we can enable this only for the admins who are interested to know what the issues are. So when they open the dashboard on their Viva Connections mobile app or say on the desktop, then they'll see this card and then they can take a look at what the issues are and then do something about it. Right, so that's the demo. Now what we'll do is we'll have a look at the code. Before jumping into the code, I would recommend you all to watch this demo by Patrick in one of the PnP calls. It gives a nice introduction on how to build ACES using SPFx. And also, like Vesa mentioned earlier, there was a session in Ignite on the Viva Connections extensibility by Vesa and Waldek. So you can watch that as well or attend the call next Tuesday on the same topic. With that in mind, let's have a look at the code. So I won't go into a lot of detail of the code because those 2 videos will provide you a lot of information. However, I'll go through some of the bits that I think are important. So firstly, all this code is shared on GitHub under the SPFx ACES repository. We have one file, the main one, which is called as the adaptive card extension.ts. So what we do is the first thing is we need to get all the issues. So we call a method called as get health overview, and that is present in a file called as servicehealth.ts. And all we do here is using Microsoft Graph, we hit this endpoint called as service announcement/issues. And then we get all those issues where isResolved is false. So that gives us all the issues. And in order to call Microsoft Graph, we are using one of the files developed by Michael Svensson, which makes calling Graph very easy. I use that in almost all the projects. There are other options as well, like PnPjs, but this file is one of the options. So once we get all the issues, what we have to do is we have to display the issues. So as in we have to display how many issues are there and how many services have been affected. To do that, we have different kind of views, card views, and all the details of the card views, quick views, etc. Are explained clearly in the demos by Patrick, Vesa and Waldek. So in this case, we have a file called as cardview.ts, which is nothing but a text card. So what we do here is, based on the data that we have got from Graph, we compute the number of issues. So we use a Lodash, one of Lodash's method called as unique by, and then get the length of the unique services affected, which in this case is 2. And then for the number of issues, we again use Microsoft Graph's OData count. So as you can see over here, I've just put the data that is written from Graph. There's an OData count of 4, we just display that over here. Right, and then in order to display all the text, we just format the text accordingly to say how many issues and how many services have been affected. Once that is done, when we click on View Details, we need to show the the affected services and the issues. For that, we've got a card button, and then as you can see, we just open a quick view when that button is clicked. So the code for that is pretty much simple. It's nothing but an action of the type quick view, and then we tell it to open a particular quick view that we would have created. Yeah. Right. So we need to format the data slightly. So on the left side, you see the data that is returned from graph. It is the list of issues and the service to which the issue belongs. Now we need to group the issues by service. So as you can see on the right side over here, we need to group by the Exchange service and the Microsoft 365 Suite service in this case. So in order to do that, we use load dash again. So there's this method which groups all our data from graph by service, and then we do some mapping wherein we get the issues, and we also get the number of issues in a string format. And finally, we've got an icon for each of the service. This is a custom icon that we have in our code, and there's a method to get an icon for the service based on the name of the service. So using load dash, we formatted the data in such a way that all the data is now grouped by service. Once that is done, we need to display this quick view. So we have the data which is grouped by service. Now we need to display that. In order to do that, we have a file called as issueview.ts. It's actually service. It should be actually serviceview.ts, but it was my mistake while naming the file. But anyway, this file needs to display all the services that have been affected. So all we do is the data that we have formatted will be present in the state variable. So we just get that when the quick view loads. And then in order to display that data, we make use of adaptive card, and hence this is adaptive card extension. So adaptive cards come in the format of JSON. So we have this file called as issueviewtemplate.json. The first thing we do here is we've gotten all the services in an array. That's what we bind this JSON file to. And then all we have to do is the first thing we do is show the image. For that, we create an item of the type image, and then we set the URL of that to service icon. Now, service icon is nothing but the data that we set earlier in the formatted data. So at the bottom over here, I've just taken the Microsoft 365 Suite object from our services, and we've got a service icon property in that, and that's what we show over here. And similarly, the next thing we do is we have a text block wherein we have to display the name of the service that is affected. Again, in the services array, we've got the name property for each service. That's what is displayed over here. And then we have to display the number of issues for each service. So again, we insert a text block, and there's a property called as number of issues that we have created, and we just display that using the number of issues property. And finally, there's a button. So as we saw in the demo, when we click on that, it shows the issues present in that service. So that's nothing but an action of the type submit. So we add an icon in the base 64 format to that. And then one thing we do here is we create a custom object or a custom property called as service, and then set the value of that to the name of the service. Now, this custom property name can be anything based on what we think is relevant. In this case, I'm using property name as service, and the value of that will be the name of the service itself. The reason why we do that is we'll come to know in a minute. So once that button is clicked, what we do is we show another quick view. That's using the quick view navigator.push. And then the other thing we do is we update the state. There's a variable called a selected service. We update that with the value of the service that we set earlier in the JSON. So in this case, the selected service will be Microsoft 365 suite. Now let's look at how we display other issues themselves. Again, this is a quick view. So we've got a TS file wherein we set the data. So what we do here is we get the selected service and all of the services from the state. And then based on the service that is selected, we need to get the issues of the service. So that's all we do here. Over here, in the services, we find that service which has been selected, and then we get the issues of that service. So in this case, the service that was selected was Microsoft 365 Suite, and then the issues were, the 3 issues that were present in or that were associated with that service. So that's what we need, and we set the issues now. Now all we have to do is display these issues. To do that, again, we've got an adaptive card. So what we do is we set the data of that to the issues array that we've got. And then this one's pretty simple. So firstly, in order to show the issue itself, we insert a text block and we display the title of the issue. So as you can see over here, in the issues array, we've got a title, and that's what is displayed over here. And then in order to display the button itself, it's nothing but an action in which we need to open a URL. So when we click on that URL, it takes us to the Service Health page and opens the issue. So that's what we do over here. We simply get the URL property of the issue and then associate that with the More Details button. Right, so that's the code overview. Now here are some resources that were used in the development of this sample. Everything will be shared in the chat. And yeah, that's it from my side. Thank you very much.
Fantastic demo. Great comments there. Very well received. Really impressive format there and great code. So thank you for that. Next up is Allison Collins with a React News web part. Allison, if you want to share your screen and take it away.
Hello.
Hey, there you are.
Sorry about that, tech issues. Sorry, my PowerPoint does not like me today. Just give a second, please.
Allison, if it helps, we can hop over to Hugo real quick and come back to you if you want to. Just going to put Hugo on the spot. Let's go ahead and do that, Hugo. Leah, why don't you go ahead, and Hugo is going to cover SPFx Design Patterns with custom properties.
Awesome.
Take it away, Hugo.
Okay, so these sessions are called SPFx Design Patterns. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to level up everyone. So you might say, hey, you know what, these are some boring topic, entry-level topics. But we're always trying to cover some kind of easy stuff to learn as well as some more complicated stuff. And today we're going to be talking about custom properties. And by custom properties, we mean the properties that are not out of the box in SPFx WebPart or Viva Connections or any of these things, and that where you want to add them to your solution and you want to expose them either through the property pane or through the body of your WebPart. And again, you might say, hey, Hugo, I know how to do custom properties. I would say, well, first of all, I can't hear you. But second of all, I'm going to try to show you a few things that you may not already know about. And if you already knew about it, then it's a good refresher. All right, so out of the box, and we'll talk about some ways that you can extend this, but out of the box, there are a few property field types that are available to you. You've got some checkboxes, some radio buttons or choice groups. You've got some drop downs. You've got some sliders, single text, multiple text, and toggle. And we'll go through them in detail. But the process is all the same. And if you remember our last session, we talked about how the property pane configuration is done through exposing or kind of responding to this event, which is a get property pane configuration. And it expects you to pass an interface of iProperty pane configuration objects. And ultimately, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be passing a bunch of group fields or a bunch of fields that are going to expose the properties. This is a standard one, the regular text field, and we always point to the property that we want to bind to. But let's look at some of those additional property types that we have available. The first thing that we do, and if you're doing, by the way, SPFx, kind of an older version of SPFx, because you need support for 2019 or 2016, these objects are actually still found, I believe, in the base web part library. But in the newer versions of SPFx, all these objects are found in the SP property pane, which we'll cover shortly. So we have a few things that we want to import here. And in this case, I'm importing kind of every single thing that I want to use. You probably don't need to import as many controls when you do it for yourself. But it's all coming from the SP property pane library. All right, so let's start with the first one. Oh, I don't know where that Microsoft logo showed up. Let's look at the Boolean field, right? The Boolean field is actually implemented through a checkbox. And so the control is rightly named property pane checkbox. Again, I created a property in my web part that I called the from checkbox. You could call it whatever you want. And then I have a label associated to it. And then I say, is it checked yes or no? And one of the things that you'll notice here is that, you could just say, is it checked, and just bind to the is it checked Boolean control. But one thing you have to remember is your web part may not have been initialized when you first drop it. So it might not either be true or false, or you might not be getting the behavior that you're looking for, right, that you're expecting. So one little trick here is, I always do this. You can choose not to do it if you want, but I always make sure that I do, is it checked and is it equal to true, right? That way I know that if it's a falsy value, it's going to be evaluated properly, and I know that truthy values are going to be evaluated properly. It's just a little trick. All right, let's go quickly because we have a lot of stuff to cover. We also have choice fields, and choice fields allows you to put a bunch of radio buttons, and allows you to do kind of a mutually exclusive set of choices. So for example, I can only pick one season here, but there's also other ways that you can use it. You may already have seen this control in use in the out-of-the-box web parts. For example, the layout grid is actually, or layout attribute of some of the web part is done using this type of control. And I did a custom one below where I'm using kind of custom shapes and custom icons. Let me show you how we do that. The first thing we do is we'll import the property pane choice group, and obviously we'll bind to the choice field property that we want, and then we're going to pass the options. Now, if all I'm doing is I'm showing text, like I showed for the seasons, you just put the key and value or the key in the display text that you want. That's pretty easy. But if you want to show, ooh, that was funky. If you want to show some icons or images, one of the things that you can do is you can actually pass up to two images, one which is the selected image and one which is the image source, that is when the item is not selected. So if you want to have a fun image that's different when you select the item and is the current active one, you can absolutely do that. In my case, what I'm using is I'm using the exact same image for when it's selected and unselected. And how do I insert these images? Well, one of the ways you can do that is you can just use something like this where you're using require. I happen to like defining a variable for my requires so that I can reuse that object multiple times in my class. In this case, I could have just put the require directly in the thing. But if you remember, I used a layout break object twice in that code. So I kind of wanted to do one require and use the object twice. But it's really creating a string that points to the in this case, an SVG file. I like to use SVG because I always want these icons to look nice and crisp. And I know you can't tell through the screen share, but they're nice and crisp. All right, let's move forward. We also have a choice field, and choice field is really a property pane drop-down control. And that control is actually what it will do is it will list a whole bunch of options. So in this case, I listed a list of months, right? Now, one thing that I want to point out from a user experience perspective, because we see this all the time, if you see a drop down and you see the word January, or Alabama, or I don't know, something like that, you can probably guess what's behind that drop down, and you got a good idea. But what if I put something? I picked a random word here, but what if there's a word like this, right? And that's the medical term for ice cream headache. But so what if I have this word, right? What does it mean to the users? It might not mean anything. And using a drop-down box for terms that people are not familiar with is usually not a good idea, because they won't know what other choices are behind the drop-down box. So if you have situations like this, it might be better for you to show them the previous control, right, which will list all the options. The other thing that's important is that when you show them a list of drop-down options, may sound obvious, but you want to make sure that it is a predictable order, right? It's either alphabetically or in this case by order of month, just so that people don't have to read through every single choice in order to find the right one. Because remember last time we talked about Miller's Law and Higgs Law and how people feel stupid when they can't find things and it slows them down. This is one choice, one opportunity to make people feel better, right? That they're not silly when they're reading through this list and they're not using all their energy. We also have the slider field, right, which is just for numbers and things like that. But let's move on to the fun stuff. I don't want to show you this boring stuff. Let's move quickly to this control here. So we have the toggle field. And the toggle field, remember I showed you the checkbox field earlier? Now we have a toggle field, and it seems to be doing the same thing. It's pointing to, it seems to be pointing to the Boolean control. And we do the same thing as we did before, right? Except we now have an on and off text. And we also do the is it equal to true trick that I showed you before. But why would you use a checkbox versus a toggle? Well, if you've ever used an iPhone, I'm not lucky enough to use an iPhone, but if you ever use an iPhone or Android phone, you know that there's toggle buttons that are used. And one of the trick is that the toggle button should always have an instant reaction, and it should be reflected immediately. So for example, when I toggle the airplane mode on my phone, you can see that I go from having connection to, when it's turned on, I don't have connection. It's reflected immediately. And if those actions are not immediate, one of the things that we want to make sure is that maybe we don't want to use a toggle, maybe we want to use a checkbox, right? And again, it's just a part of being consistent in your behavior. The other thing we want to do is make sure that your labels are concise and non-neutral, right? So avoid super long text here, where you should be able to say something like, instead of saying, I don't know, do you want to receive email notifications from us? Just say email notifications or text notifications. And in most cases, you shouldn't even have to use the on or off label because it should be painfully obvious.
Thank you, Hugo. Great work as always. So Allison, if you want to take over the presentation, I see it. Take it away.
All right, here we are. So hi everyone, I'm Allison Collins and I'm an SPFx developer. I've been programming for more than 6 years and I love doing it every day. Below I've got some links to my blog, LinkedIn, and the web part I'm presenting today. So speaking of that, let's see a demo on it. And here I am in my browser. You can see I have 2 React web parts, just one with the default generic settings. No sites are selected, nothing's configured yet. It actually gets back the sites from the current site selected. So this one actually has site selected on it, and you can see you can click on any news post because the title, it's a link, and then you can go to that news post and you can actually like or comment, and I'll say testing. And then when I refresh this, it'll pull that back as a like and a comment. So then we have the description, some other stuff, and what I think is really nice is that you can go into here, and there's several different things you can do. So there's styling. Currently I have stack styled selected, but you can also go to single style. And then it just changed the look. And then you can go to different sites that you want to select. You can deselect sites, and it will remove those sites and any news posts that it has on there. And then you can also change if the author is shown or hidden. So see, the author is hidden, and then it's not. There we go. All right, and then that's it. You have the thumbnail of each site displayed here. And all right, well, let's show more code. I'll show you guys that. We're gonna kick off with the first component rendered named React News Web Part. We have some cool stuff going on in here, so let's dive into it. When the web part mounts, we call the get method, as you can see here. In this get method, we have an if-else statement to check if you have any sites selected in the property pane. If there are no sites selected, or it was called by the component mounting, we assign the URL variable the current site's URL.
Okay, no worries there, Allison. Great work up to that point. Hope the tech issues there get resolved on your end. Would love to have you come back and revisit that demo on a future call. Well, at this point, I think we won't flip back to Hugo, but we will go ahead and close out for today. So I want to thank all three of our presenters, Anoop, Allison, and Hugo. All three of you, great work. Appreciate you taking the time. And if you are interested in presenting, please do fill out that form we had the link to earlier. Recordings will be available about 24 hours on the Microsoft 365 Community PnP YouTube channel, ak.ms/m365pnp/videos. You can always subscribe there, of course, to get the latest updates. And you can follow us on Twitter at Microsoft 365 Dev and M365 PnP. Next SPFx call is going to be in 2 weeks on November 18th at 7 a.m. Pacific time. And next M365 General Dev call is going to be November 11th. That's next Thursday at 7 a.m. All available community calls on ak.ms/m365pnp. And as well, you can catch all of our other developer community calls. Encourage you to check out the Microsoft 365 platform call for updates across the entire platform, as well as the tech specific calls listed down there below. So thank you again to our presenters. Thank you again to all of you for joining us here today. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and we will talk soon. Bye-bye.